Equilibrium. Equilibrium, I love this word, is considered to be the normal state of society. And so Radcliffe Brown and others believed we use social techniques and controls to preserve equilibrium in our society. Like right now, you can see America is out of balance, right? And we have tensions pulling us on the left and the right. And both of these groups believe we're out of balance for different reasons. And they're trying to pull the bulk of us who are somewhere in the middle to either the left or the right, depending on their perception and worldview. And there's lots of different ways we can try to bring equilibrium to society or to our group. Here's a couple ways. One way is through avoidance. When people aren't acting within the range of normalcy, we'll often avoid or ostracize them. Back to Paul's analogy, right? That's how he believed you needed to deal with church discipline. If someone isn't being a healthy, productive member of the body of Christ, if they're in sin, they need to be disfellowshipped. They need to be cut off. You're not even supposed to eat a meal with those people. And that is a technique to try to bring someone in conformity or back into equilibrium with the group. If someone isn't practicing proper hygiene, people are probably going to scoot away from them at the lunchroom table or in the classroom or in the van. And that's an avoidance technique, which is communicating you are not conforming to the norms of our group, and you need to do so. It could be because of their theological beliefs, because of their political views, because of their sports teams. There's all sorts of things we could do to try to bring people in. Another technique is joking, and I find this crazy fascinating. We often will use jokes or humor in an attempt to shame or manipulate people into changing their behavior. So maybe you went and got some edgy haircut and you come off and you want to test it out with your friends, and people start joking like, whoa, did you get in a fight with the lawnmower or something like that? Well, they're saying it as a joke, but what they're conveying to you and to the group is you are out of bounds, you are not following the norms and the protocols, and we are going to mock you and make fun of you until you look like the rest of us again. Does that make sense? I mean, I call people on this all the time. It usually happens when you're with 3 or more people. I don't normally see this one-on-one, but definitely when you get into groups of 3 or more, what will happen is someone will get picked on, and it will usually be in jest or in a joking way. And then when people do that to me, when people use public humor to confront you or to comment on your appearance or your beliefs or your values, it's actually one of these equilibrium techniques using humor to try to force you back into conformity. So when people do that to me, I publicly call them on it, and I ask them, why are you attacking me? Why are you trying to make me conform to your views and your values? Why are you judging me? And it's quite fun because people will usually backtrack really quickly, deny what they're doing, but watch for it next time. When you're out with a group of friends or something, how people will use humor in an attempt to manipulate social norms. Does anyone have an example from your own life where that's happened to you, or you've done that to someone else? Now, granted, I would rather have someone use humor to correct me than to a stern, mean, authoritarian voice. I think there's a place for a light humor, chiding correction, but you can tell when it kind of turns, right? And they think what they can do is say, oh, dude, I was just joking. I was just joking around. Take it easy. But see, they're not just joking around. When you make a public joke at someone else's expense, you are trying to point out that they have apparent behavior or thinking. They are not part of the group.
Yeah, I can agree with that as well. When it comes to, well, I'm an aviation student, and so most of my family, they see it as maybe a little crazy. especially before I even wanted to be a pilot, I used to skydive. And
Cool. Yeah.
most people look at me like, you know, why would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane? And it's like, well, I mean, because it's fun. But yeah, that I can see how that would be. They're trying to get me not to do something.
Right. And one of the ways to do that, I mean, people could argue with you rationally, logically, or they could use humor or joke with you that you're missing a chip or you got a screw loose or something's not all there to make you want to do that kind of risky behavior. And that is part of others trying to get us to conform to what they think we should look like, act like, think like. And just be aware of that. There's a lot of pressure if you want to run outside the group. Okay? Conformity is a virtue in most cultures and society. Those who refuse to go ahead, Kendall.
Oh yeah. So would the only like reason they or somebody would do that would be like to get them to be down on their level again, or something like that.
Right, but they are probably considering it get them back up to their level. Like you slipped, you've fallen out of the norm. You need to get your act together. All of us still look right and think right. You're the one who's left
be,
the
feeling a little jealous as well. Like as if like for some cases they might feel like they wish they could do something like that, or like they want to be just like you, but they're trying to make you feel bad because they don't have the courage to do what you're doing.
right. Let me give you a couple examples. Say you're with a group of people that look like me. You got kind of longish hair, long beard, kind of the let it be look. And then the next thing you know, one of your buddies, your mountain man buddies comes and he's got a high and tight cut. He has a really well-trimmed groomed beard. You can tell he's used maybe a little man cover to fix any little blemishes and all of that. And he's wearing like a three-piece suit and tie. Well, that would be really shocking to me. And I could see myself saying stuff like, way to sell out to the man, or who are you trying to impress, or did you become a Republican or something? And I could say these things jokingly, but you see there's like this deeper dig at, you're not doing it right. You've turned your back on the group. You've betrayed us. Something a little lighter. When I see people, like I saw a few of the faculty and staff after summer, and they had grown beards. And so I did it in a more positive humor way because I wanted to reinforce what I saw as good behavior, beard growing for men. And so every time I saw one of the faculty or staff who had grown a new beard, I would say, oh, I'm so glad you got right with Jesus this summer. And the implication being those with beards were right with Jesus and those without are not, which is obvious, foolish nonsense. One's beard or lack thereof has nothing to do with their relationship with Jesus. But that's using like humor as a technique to try to push behavior in the direction I think it should go. And we will use that as a society. I mean, think of it. You were probably publicly humiliated in elementary school by a teacher if you came to school looking or smelling funny. I mean, maybe you had a nice teacher and they pulled you aside and talked to you privately, quietly, but especially in middle school, man, it was brutal, where both your peers and your parents and your schools are all trying to force you into this type of conformity and identity. And as middle schoolers, you guys are much closer to that time than me, but I remember how overwhelming it was and realizing what a little sense of self I had and trying to figure out who I was and what I believed and where I belonged, where I fit in. And so it's a rough time. And a lot of these groups are using these avoidance and humor techniques to bring conformity. And with that, we are out of time. So we will start with general evolution on Monday.